Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today we have two panels, and we'll start by the first panel, which is about international accreditation. Our distinguished panelist with us, Mr. Timothy Miscon. Unfortunately, Dr. Patricia Mosto will not be able to join us, but she sent us a video, and we'll see her presentation by video. And we have Dr. Sharif Ali and Dr. Johansen Aid with us. I'll present each one of them now. And each one will have a short presentation, and then after finishing all the presentations, we'll have an open discussion from the floor for comments, for questions, and we have a translation, Arabic English translation, so it can be in Arabic or in English. I myself will speak Anglo-Arab, so this will be very difficult for the translator, but it is the most difficult thing for a translator, I know. But anybody wants to express himself in Arabic is welcome. Anybody who wants to express himself in English, it's okay. I don't know if somebody speaks French or anything else. ما عندناش بقى ترجمة. Our first in the list of the panel, Dr. Timothy Miscon. He is the Executive Vice President and Chief Officer, Europe, Middle East, and Africa of the AACSB, which is a very long thing. Dr. Ahmed just told me it is the Association for Advancement of Collegial Schools of Business. So it is an accrediting body for the business school, of our business school, and many business schools all over the world. So, Dr. Timothy, we are very much pleased that you are accepted our invitation to come here and to present for us, and especially what is the difference between institutional accreditation and professional accreditation. And if I am a student or a parent of a student coming to choose a business school, why I will choose an AACSB accredited institution or NAQAAE or Middle States accredited institution? And if I am a company and I am getting a graduate, which is most important? Is it the institutional or the professional, or of course both? Okay, Dr. Timothy, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Oh, thanks. Thank you so much, and it's really an honor and a privilege for me to be back on this beautiful AUC campus. I've had the pleasure of making a number of visits here. I was last here this past summer when your extraordinary business school hosted a research conference of the African Academy of Management, and so graciously invited a number of doctoral students here from across Africa to talk about their research efforts, and as we would expect from my good friend Dr. Sharif Kamal and his colleagues, the AUC Business School took an extraordinary leadership role in this development program for emerging doctoral students. So very grateful for that, and very honored to be here. For those of you that don't know much about AACSB, this summarizes the organization. We were actually founded 103 years ago at a meeting at Harvard Business School when a group of business schools gathered because they were a little bit concerned about the perception of research and quality related to business education as it was perceived by their colleagues in the sciences, the arts, and the humanities. And so from that meeting in 1916, AACSB was created as a nonprofit member organization specifically focused on high quality and continuous improvement in business and economic education, and we've remained, I believe, true to that original mission. Today we have 3 offices, one in Singapore to support our members in Oceania and Asia Pacific, one in the U.S. to work with our members in the Americas, and the office that I have the pleasure to lead in Amsterdam, which works with our members in Europe, the Middle East, and Africa. As you can see, we're not a large organization in terms of staff, but what drives the success of AACSB are our volunteers. And Dr. Kamal was telling me he'll be serving next year on 2 peer review team visits back to back. One in Amman, and then as soon as that finishes, he races off to Istanbul for the next. And those volunteer review teams are what are the heart and soul of our organization. Our vision, our mission, our values are similar and repeated in various forms in higher education in the world. But our vision is very important. We talk about leveraging business education to enhance global prosperity. And today, as I'll share with you, we now have members in 101 countries and territories across the world. And so high quality and continuous improvement looks different based on the country context, the regional context, and that's very important to us. Our mission is wrapped around 3 important standards: innovation, engagement, and impact. And you will hear me talk about that again and again. And our values, much like the values of this great university around quality, diversity, and inclusion, a global mindset, social responsibility and ethics, and engagement with the community, however broadly that community is defined. And I'll repeat these again and again, but very important that we look at the role of business education as a force for good, and we'll talk briefly about that. So you can see I show you here our 3 regions. In the green on top are the Americas, the orange is Europe, Middle East, and Africa, and in the yellow is Asia Pacific. And you can see what's happening across EMEA now over the last 10 years ago or so, this dramatic growth in membership, we're particularly proud, and Dr. Kamal has been very, very important in serving a leadership role, not only with our Middle East, North Africa Advisory Council, but we have a learning community, an affinity group for MENA as well. In the MENA region now, we have well over 100 members, and we're very, very proud of that. And across the continent of Africa, 35 member institutions now, and I'll show you a little bit about that, but reflective of the traction that we're seeing across the organization on this continent as well. A little bit of a different breakdown of our educational members by macro region, and you can see now 30% of our global membership is in EMEA, and that will continue to grow dramatically in the years to come. Now, as was referenced, we're very proud that AUC was our very first accredited school in not just in Egypt, but in all of North Africa. And you can see what is happening with this trajectory of accredited schools as well. And very importantly to note that if you look at this run rate outside of the Americas, 10 years from now, the number of accredited schools outside the Americas will be greater, and then forever and ever. And currently, the number of AACSB members outside of the Americas is greater than those in the Americas. And so forever and ever, the organization takes on this global mindset. And one other picture of accredited members by region, and as I said, this rate is changing dramatically, really, as we speak. I like this map. It's a global membership map, and where you see the dark green is where AACSB has accredited members. So we have accredited members today in 56 countries worldwide out of the 101 countries where we have members. The member presence is in the light green. And then, of course, you can see my challenge, focusing on the continent of Africa, is to grow that footprint a little bit more substantially, particularly in sub-Saharan Africa. And it's a work in process. We have our first members now in Sudan and Somalia. I just returned from Zimbabwe and Zambia, but we have some work to do. And the profile is changing, but it's a slow process. This is our membership map in EMEA proper. And so while it's a little hard to read, it lets you see the sort of distribution of members across Europe, the Middle East, and Africa. And so it's a very important picture of us to watch our footprint as it slowly expands across the EMEA region. This year, for example, we accredited our first school, not only in Russia, but also in Morocco. So we're honored to have another AACSB accredited school in North Africa, and more to come, and we think that's very, very important as the culture of the organization changes dramatically. Now to the topic about accreditation versus rankings and institutional versus programmatic. I'm going to confuse you a little bit, because since 1916, AACSB has been an institutional accreditor. So when over 15 years ago AUC earned AACSB accreditation, it was actually institutional, right? Now what's defined as the accredited aggregate of programs is navigated by the dean and by the provost and the president, and there are some programs that are in that accreditation sphere and some that are outside that. But at least remaining today, we are in fact an institutional accreditor, which is complicated in many institutions, but it is the nature of our work. I will point out on the bottom here, you see this symbol for ISO. I think it's important to note that over the last 2 years, our own accreditation activity went through ISO certification successfully. We felt it was very important to benchmark our own processes with global quality assurance standards, and we did that, and we've committed to that for the long term as well. So very, very important that we felt we were aligned with international quality assurance standards. Currently, AACSB's accreditation standards fall into these 4 categories: strategic management and innovation, what we call the participants, which are professional staff, professors, teachers, and students, or what we call today learners. The area of teaching and learning, what happens in the classroom. And then this area that we call academic and professional engagement, which relates to a great extent to intellectual contributions, to research and scholarship, and the ability of the business school to engage with various stakeholders. We say the highest quality business programs in the world operate at the intersection of theory and practice, and believe that's very, very important for our schools. To the question that was asked, why AACSB? We talk about the emphasis on high quality and continuous improvement. And the second point that we're so very proud of, that our process is a peer-to-peer process. So our schools, when they are engaged in the accreditation process, they identify peers that look like them. And it's peer-to-peer, and you identify those institutions within our membership base of 1,700 schools across these 101 countries or territories that look like you. Today, we say these 5 drivers of AACSB accreditation. First, it's all about mission. And we believe each and every one of our schools can have a unique, distinctive mission that is distinctive to their geography, their history, and their own strategy. Second, our process is principles-driven, not rules-based. So while many look for rules, for specific guidelines, we have a few, but for the most part, our standards are principles-driven. This is about internal self-assessment and then peer-to-peer review. So it's a very important part of this assessing quality assurance in your context. Fourth, as I said, we are laser-focused on high quality and continuous improvement. And finally, we have a group of staff that support the efforts of our member institutions. So the values, 2 minutes, we think we provide meaningful interaction between students and professors. We produce through our quality assurance process graduates, bachelor's, master's, doctoral graduates who meet specific learning goals. We're very focused on the quality of the curriculum and teaching, and we think as an accredited institution, AUC makes a statement to the world of business and the world of government that it is among an elite group of the highest ranked business schools. If you look at Times Higher Ed, or QS, or The Economist, or FT, or Bloomberg, or US News, the highest ranked schools in the world, we accredit. I mentioned already the engagement, innovation, and impact, which we think is very important. As I mentioned, AUC was the first accredited school in North Africa, and I would argue that these elements and this dean and the faculty in the business school that distinguish this program in so many ways. This engagement in community and social involvement, volunteerism, and a commitment to highest quality research and teaching as well. That, to me, is the most distinctive element. My last slide, these are our 15 standards within those 4 categories that I referenced. I thank you for the invitation to be here and look forward to questions and interaction with you. Thank you very much.
Good morning. I'm happy to be present at this conference, even if I cannot do it except by this media. Fortunately, some medical complications did not allow me to fly to Egypt at this time. I'm going to talk today about international accreditation. I've been an assessor for the Middle State Commission of Higher Education for the last 20 years. And I see a tremendous value on being accredited international, and that why? Well, accreditation from a globally respected agency, meaning that immediate acceptance, assurance, confidence in your institution and the service you provide to the students. I think the best way to demonstrate the highest value of the education that you provide is through international accreditation. There are local accreditations, every country has their own, but there is something that when you go to an international accreditation, and particularly if you want to have your students coming to the United States, it's highly valuable. And the U.S. is probably the biggest international accreditor at this moment. There are a few universities have been accredited by Canada and Australia. So having a U.S. accreditation provides a significant advantage because the U.S. accreditors are highly respected and recognized worldwide as a reliable indicator of the competency of your institution. Many institutions seek U.S. accreditation, and they gain a lot through the assessment process because they learn best practices and also can learn from experienced assessors like myself. I have done many U.S. International accreditations. U.S. accreditation basically provides an evidence that an institution render competitive services at an international standards. We have a United States accreditors have a highly recognized reputation. So if an institution has a U.S. accreditation, basically there is a highly confidence in the quality of education that your institution provide. We also, U.S. put a tremendous effort on assessing and improving the assessors. So when we have a high level of competency, and that can be a value added to your institutions when we go and visit and assess your institution. There has been a high demand for U.S. accreditation from foreign institutions as a way to distinguish their problems and attract students, in particularly those interested in going to the U.S. for graduate school after completing undergraduate at their own country. And the institutions are not just like the American University of Cairo, who is part of Middle State, but they are entrance for many other non-American style, non-English speaking institutions that wants to be accredited by the U.S. And as I said, Middle State is one of the largest accreditors. For example, the Universidad Mayor in Chile or Min Min University in Taiwan, both of which I have been part of their accreditation process. Also, we know that there is a value on international education. So if all institutions can adapt similar quality assurance on their education that they provide, we'll all be better off. The challenge that we find when we accredit in an institution abroad is provide the same scrutiny to the foreign institution and the foreign program that we do here in the United States. The most recent data, I think is 2018, shows that U.S. has accredited a total of 987 institutions in 82 different countries. This is above the branches like AUC that are part of the Middle State accreditation. And between 2007 and 2018, the total number of international programs have almost tripled. U.S. has an international quality assurance, and the more we work internationally, the more we can address common issues in higher education. So there are 6 accrediting institutions in the United States, out of which I belong to the Middle State Commission of Higher Education, and that's the one I'm going to talk the most, and is the largest accreditor of foreign institutions. Recently, the Western Association are beginning to look into international accreditation. The Southern Association only accrediting institutions in Latin America. The New England Association only accept British institutions. The Northwest Commission only accept Canadian institutions, and the Higher Learning in North Central does not do international accreditation. Middle States has accredited institutions in Canada, Chile, England, Taiwan, Egypt, and the United Arab Emirates. One of the commission's probably most challenged is the long-distance travel to some of these institutions, as well as the language barriers that occur sometimes. For the institutions, sometimes they found it very time-consuming to translate all of the documents that are required for accreditation to English, which is a commission requirement. An institution that seeks accreditation with Middle States must be able to meet the commission requirement for affiliation. Those can be found on the Standards for Accreditation and Requirements of Affiliation at the Middle State Commission of Higher Education website, and it also needs to comply with the policies, procedures, and guidelines of the Commission. To apply for accreditation, the institution has to be operationally with students actively engaged in academic programs and demonstrate the ability that students have appropriate learning outcomes. An institution pay fees to Middle States according to the policies, and those fees basically are to be part of Middle States and cover the expenses of the accrediting teams when they travel to the institutions. The time since you apply to get accredited varies depending on how the readiness of the institution that we're talking about. Institutions, they are ready and they have their compliance with the requirements for accreditation can take less than 3 years. Institutions who are not quite ready could take a little longer. In summary, what are the benefits? Well, U.S. is a hallmark in accreditation, international accreditation, due to the peer review process, and which is very rigorous, and it's mission driven. So basically it's based on the mission of each institution. We are not a non-governmental entity, so there are not government regulations in accreditation. It is very helpful to institutions who have students seeking to graduate, to do graduate studies in the United States. Coming for a U.S. accredited institution is very valuable. And it's also a great value to interact with colleges, colleagues around the world, and less about best practice in higher education. There are costs, of course, associated with it. The time involved, like I said, translating documents and people when the accreditor team comes, and money due to fees and dues and paying for the accreditors visiting the institution. There are challenges. Mainly language sometimes is a big barrier to accredit some institutions. Culture, although we put a lot of emphasis on sending accreditors that are aware or cognizant of the culture of the country where the institution is being accredited. And then security issues. Not all countries have the same security level that the United States, and that sometimes become a problem to overcome. So I highly recommend to all institutions to look into the Middle State Commission of Higher Education, go to their website, and do the application, or at least look for the interest on being internationally accredited. Shukran.
طيب احنا حقلب عربي بقى عشان النبي عربي برضه. احنا اتكلمنا على الانترناشونال او الاعتماد الدولي المؤسسي من الميدل ستيتس اللي هي هيئة ميدل ستيتس في أمريكا، وعلى الاعتماد المهني في البيزنس سكول. وفضل لنا اعتماد مهني آخر مهم جدا، وبعد كده الدكتورة يوهانسن هتسمى الموضوع على ككل. طبعا الدكتور عمرو سلامة والدكتور هاني هلال كانوا بيقولوا ان ايه مهندسين واذرز، انجينيرز اند اذرز. معلش يا دكتور احمد، وهم اللي ضيعوا الدنيا برضه. اطباء غلابه. بروفيسور شريف علي مش بس بروفيسور ان ذا AUC، لكن هو النهارده بيمثل الايبت، وطبعا هو قاعد ومهندسه جنبه وهو مهندس، والمشكله كلها هندسه في هندسه في هندسه. فالايبت هي ما اعتقدش ان في مهندس او حد خريج هندسه ما يعرفش الايبت اكريديتيشن. كل واحد بيقول لك انت خريج كذا، طب هي واخده الايبت اكريديتيشن ولا لا؟ والكمبيوتر ساينس انت برضو والدكتور، بس عشان خاطر الدكتور ايه فهي مش بس في الهندسه، لا هي في الساينس والانجينيرنج. وهنشوف الدكتور شريف النهارده بيمثل الايبت، ما بيمثلش AUC. اتفضل يا دكتور شريف.
Okay, hello, good morning. So I'm very happy to be here today. This stand makes me feel like a giant, but I'm actually not that tall, but I'm standing on something. So accreditation. Everyone goes through an accreditation process at some point in time in their lives. Accreditation says something about you. Says something in comparison to what? In comparison to a certain set of standards and criteria that hopefully a wisdom of the crowd had put together in order to say something as a minimum guarantee about you. So just by simply being accredited today, I'm not going to bore you with the details of ABET and so on, but I'm going to try to maybe give an insider's view a little bit of how we see the accreditation process from the perspective of a volunteer who had been working with ABET for quite some time, taking a look and seeing what I say as the good, the bad, and the ugly of accreditation, processes and programs around the world. So generally, ABET is probably the world-renowned nonprofit organization that is into the business of not only accrediting engineering programs, but is also into the business of accrediting computing programs, applied and natural sciences, as well as engineering technology. Much built on volunteers. 100% of the decisions that are made with regards to accreditation are based on volunteers. Why do volunteers engage at this scale to work for an organization, go through the massive effort of reading self-study reports, of visiting programs, sometimes having to take 3 planes, spend the night somewhere, take another car and drive it for like 2-3 hours to reach a very remote destination to try to evaluate a program? It's because you get to see and learn something every single time you perform an accreditation visit. You see how the universe operates in various different parts around the globe. So ABET accredits programs. It's not into the business of accrediting universities like Middle States is, but it's into the business of accrediting programs, like I said, in natural sciences, in computing, engineering, and engineering technology. So with ABET, accreditation, employers can actually be confident to a certain degree, can be confident to a certain level that a certain minimum criteria is basically being met. Certain quality standards are producing graduates prepared to engage in the global workforce. So, like I said, ABET does not accredit institutions, doesn't accredit schools or colleges or departments. It doesn't accredit facilities, courses, or even the faculty, not the graduates and not the degrees, but only the programs. However, the criteria that goes into accrediting the programs itself is a function of all of the above. It's a function of how good or bad the faculty are, how much depth and breadth they have, how much expertise and the numbers they have in terms of the sufficiency to be able to serve the programs that are in question to be accredited. It's a function of the facilities, whether you have a good library, whether you have a good technology infrastructure, whether you have a good support system that allows you to go ahead and provide the learning outcomes and enable the learning outcomes that are needed in order for your program to be accredited. It's a function of the coursework and the minimum knowledge units that are present inside the coursework to be able to say that you meet the minimum standard. It's a function of your institutional support, whether your university is giving you sufficient support to contribute to the professional practice, to sharpen and enhance your skill set that will allow you to, again, allow for the student learning outcomes to be attained to service the program in question. So all of the above, even though that they're not being accredited themselves, they're actually part of the process of the accreditation that is happening. Why is ABET important? Because it has a very significant footprint amongst the professional community. Because there are about 35 member associations that represent the professional discipline that actually contribute and recognize ABET. It's because of the US Patent Office, the State Boards of Engineering and Licensure, because of the US State Department, because of the US Trade Office, because of various councils of engineering and specialty boards that actually recognize ABET. So when you become an ABET accredited program, you are more or less standing behind the firepower of all those that recognize you as an ABET accredited program. This is a list of the ABET's 35 member societies. And as you will see from here, there are very, very known names of the professional community, like IEEE, for example, like ASCE, like SPI, like MRS, Materials Research Society, for example. All those member societies recognize ABET programs and recognize the professional practice of ABET. So these societies represent over 1.5 million individual members that contribute to those societies. Those societies help and contribute to the wisdom of the crowd in developing the program criteria upon which every single program being accredited is actually being judged for. These are the societies that appoint the board representatives that will more or less contribute to the governance. They nominate the commissioners, those people who will be leading the teams, accreditation visits, and commissioners or team leads are not necessarily super program evaluators, but they have a very, very different role in guaranteeing the success of the visit. They actually recruit and assign the program evaluators from around the globe. So not only does ABET have a local recognition inside the United States, but it also has a very strong international recognition. So for example, the International Engineering Alliance representing people and entities from 20 different countries, the Seoul Accord of Computing accrediting bodies from 12 countries. There is a memorandum of understanding between ABET and 17 international organizations, and many others, including STEM educational organizers, including UNESCO, World Federation of Engineering Organizations, and so on and so forth. They actually recognize ABET as a very prominent body of accrediting various programs around the world. This is just a list of what is included inside the International Engineering Alliance. And as you can see, there are multiple accords there, like the Washington Accord for Engineering, the Sydney Accord for Engineering Technology, the Dublin Accord for Engineering Technicians, and the list goes on. And these are people, international entities that recognize ABET as an accrediting body. The Washington Accord, another list. The Sydney Accord, a third list, and I'm hoping to see Egypt in those lists at some point in time, Dr. Johansson. That's excellent, yes. Dublin Accord, Seoul Accord for Computing and Information Technology. What footprint does ABET have around the globe? So as of 1 October 2019, ABET within the US had accredited 3,271 programs inside the United States. Outside of the United States, 873 programs representing 173 institutions. Surprisingly, the top of the list of countries that has an ABET accredited programs or attempting ABET happens to be Saudi Arabia, followed by the United Arab Emirates. And then, hopefully we can also have some momentum happening for ABET accreditation of programs in Egypt also at some point in time, given our population, given the number of universities that we have. But it's through a very casual observation, we can immediately see, especially in the Gulf area outside of the US, how important ABET as an accreditation experience is to many of those universities in the Gulf area, and so on and so forth. So ABET has this many programs per commission. So there are 4 commissions that service ABET: the Applied and Natural Sciences, the Computing and Accreditation Commission, Engineering, and as well as Engineering and Technology. And this is just a list of the various programs at the various institutions, domestic to the US and non-domestic to the US, that are accredited for each and every one of those commissions. But you can definitely see that the Engineering Accreditation Commission has the highest contribution by virtue of the various disciplines that more or less it represents. So ANSAC, or Applied and Natural Sciences, is into the business of accrediting this list of programs like health physics, environmental sciences, safety, and geomatics, and so on. The Computing Accreditation Commission is not only responsible for accrediting computer science programs, but is also responsible for computing other programs that are similarly named. So if it's a computer science program, or if it's an awkward named program pertaining to computing, or information systems, or information technology, or lately cybersecurity, and very, very lately we're also working into developing a criteria for data science programs. That's an exercise that we had been, I'd been doing with some of my colleagues with ABET to see how many of the worldwide programs are actually prone to being accredited given their status quo in the curriculum. So there's a lot of effort that basically goes into developing the criteria and developing the know-how behind that criteria and so on. But most lately, of course, cybersecurity and similarly named programs join the Computing Accreditation Commission. EAC, the various programs of engineering, engineering and technology also pertaining to technological aspects of the various disciplines and so on and so forth. So I had 10 minutes to brief you more or less on this, but let me tell you this one more time, and I stress, a volunteer visiting a university and a program to accredit is a representation to their own university. Team leads get to see and meet university presidents, vice presidents, provosts of various universities. You get to see the programs in and out and much of the detail, and much of that you see actually is good enough for you to bring back to enhance your own institution. And I think this is, a wonderful experience, and I strongly encourage people to be engaged more in those kinds of activities. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Sharif. برضو المهندسين برضو كويسين يعني. نعم. والدكتور عبادة هيقدم على ABET for Computer Science بعد ما خد النقائي. خد نقائي. طب الحمد لله. عقبالنا يا دكتور أيمن. نقائي يعني our national authority كانت حلم فأصبح حقيقة. ويعني الدكتورة يوهانسن في الفترة اللي فاتت دي نقائي ليه فوت برنت في الهاير education والeducation والأزهر education كمان موجود. لكن احنا طالبين من الدكتورة يوهانسن انها تقول لنا بقى الايه، تعمل لنا اللينك بين الاكريديتيشن either institutional أو professional with the ranking. هل is there any link between accreditation and the ranking, and which is more important, which is how can you link between them? If I am an accredited institution, is it important for me to apply for the ranking bodies, and what is the difference between the ranking bodies? دكتورة يوهانسن تفضل. الحاجات اللي احنا عايزين نقولها ان المفروض ان البروجرام اللي ياخد accreditation سواء professional accreditation او institutional accreditation من نقائي، المفروض انه ما يعملش equivalence. لا، ما ده لازم ايه، لازم ده عبارة عن توصية تطلع، لان ما ينفعش ان انا ما هي المعادلة دي معناها اعتراف. إذا كنت أنت كهيئة اعتماد وجودة مديها إنها إيه، إنها معتمدة.
اوكي.
ده في الريكومنديشن إن شاء الله.
اوكي. أولاً أنا I'm not a giant، أنا قصيرة قوي. اوكي. وأنا واقفة برضو على فوق على سلمة برضو قصيرة يعني، ونزلت المايك عشان انتوا كلكم رافعين المايكس، انا بنزل المايك عشان اتكلم بس. This is the story of my life. Anyways, first of all, it gives me great pleasure to be here today, and allow me to apologize for not being here in the morning. I was a bit confused about times, and I'm coming from the complete other side of town, and it was an unusually busy day in the morning. It took me an hour and a half to get here, which normally takes 30 to 45 minutes. So I have to apologize again. And since I'm talking today now again, so I think it's more than enough. It's sufficient for me to talk to you one time a day. First of all. Secondly, I would like to thank the AUC for inviting me here and for giving me the pleasure to talk in this beautiful conference, and for organizing such great work, and inviting all distinguished guests today here. Accreditation, ranking, institutional, program, professional, all these are just and the bottom line, quality assurance. All these are just names that we've been using over the last few years, to the extent that I feel some people are really getting sick and tired of what we're telling them. And every now and then, we're changing, and every now and then, we're come up with something new. It's international, now it's professional, now it's local, now it's regional, now it's not international, it's recognition, it's validation, it's equivalence, and all these names. And unfortunately, or strangely enough, most of these names translate into Arabic in just one name, al-i'timad, accreditation. Just everything, almost all of what I said, the equivalence from the SC or from the Supreme Council is called i'timad. So people confuse us with us as NAQAAE with many people. Now, maybe I should just very briefly say who we are, because maybe, just maybe, in the remote world, some people here do not know who NAQAAE is, but I think almost everybody does. But just in case, we are the National Authority for Quality Assurance and Accreditation of Education. We are even longer than Timothy's. So we're 6 acronyms, but Timothy is only 5. So the acronyms just are spelled out as NAQAAE, which is purity in Arabic. So we love the name. Even I, who never used it before, started using it because I love the purity part about it. Now, secondly, we are the only accrediting quality assurance and accrediting body in Egypt. We were established in the year 2006, so we're fairly new. We really started working in 2008, and so basically, and our first accreditation visit started in 2010. We, as Dr. Ashraf said, work on all types of education, and a close friend of mine, when she knew I was the head of NAQAAE, asked me, so I said, we do all types. So she told me from 3 to 30, and this has been my motto, because it's from 3 years to 30 years, because it's all types of education, all types of programs, and so on. We started out as a institution, we do all types of accreditation, but first, basically, we were known as an institutional accrediting body. But our definition of institutions, strangely enough, or not strangely, but maybe similar to Timothy's, was we were accrediting or known for accrediting universities, faculties, schools, but universities were very, very few. But basically, for the last many years, we've been accrediting faculties and schools. We very rarely accredited programs, and we did not accredit except one university, which was the AUC in 2010, and now they have applied for re-accreditation, and it's now 2019, although I have to admit, because this space to them in tribute, they have started applying since 2015, but we've had some problems pulling up NAQAAE from some problems that it had faced after 2011 and after 2013. So I'm very proud that AUC, and I have to say, and I'll say this in Arabic because it's not prepared in English, so I can't translate it, so I hope the translators can do that. إن الجامعة الأمريكية ليست مخاطبة مباشرة بالقانون بتاعنا، بمعنى إن القانون لا يشمل الجامعة الأمريكية، لأن الجامعة الأمريكية لها وضعها الخاص. فإحنا في الهيئة وإحنا في مصر لازم نكون very proud أن الجامعة الأمريكية على الرغم إنها مش محتاجة إنها تتقدم للاعتماد من NAQAAE إلا إنها تقدمت. We have to really thank them and join me in saluting them. اوكي وعلى فكره انا بقول ده واستاذي الفاضل قاعد هنا ان القصه دي بدات من ايام ما الدكتور عمرو سلامه كان موجود، وانا جيت له في المكتب هنا وقلت له لو سمحت استنوا علينا شويه عشان احنا وير بولينج يعني بنحاول ننهض بالمعايير بتاعتنا. we have to understand this difference اللي احنا بدانا ازاي. الحمد لله في جامعات كثيره are interested في التقدم. جامعة القاهرة تقدمت، جامعة عين شمس بتفكر، جامعة أسيوط بتشاور عقلها، جامعة المنصورة اتصلت، جامعة ما أنا قلت عين شمس اكتوبر، يعني هي الفكره ان فيوتشر، اعتقد بي يو اي مقربه، اعتقد ايضا ام اي يو مقربه. ليه بقول مقربين؟ لان عندنا عدد معين من البرامج التي يجب ان تعتمد من الكليات التي يجب ان تعتمد قبل ما الجامعه تتقدم للاعتماد. Which brings me to something that says simply there is no size that fits all. Everybody, every country, every place, every discipline, every association creates their own accreditation criteria, standards, rules, laws, policies, procedures according to their own needs. There are places that say you have to be institutionally accredited first and then apply for your programs. There are places that would say apply programs first and then go to institutional. It doesn't make a difference. It's just whatever it is that fits us. And the reason that we at NAQAAE started to shift to program accreditation recently was after years, I said, of working, we became more conscious and more dedicated to quality assurance. And we started to realize that faculties, as in schools, as in الكلية, that the ones that have too many departments or many programs, some of the quality assurance aspects and standards and the quality of the programs themselves get compromised when we look at the institution as a whole without really deeply looking at the program. So we kind of look horizontally, not really vertically. And so we started to shift to this program accreditation. And like Dr. Sharif just said, ABET, which is everybody, and half of the people here, and most of one of my friends here are engineers and architects, okay? Because I'm not only an engineer, I'm an architect, so we even are more aware of who we are than any other engineering department. So anyways, we have to apply for accreditation. We would like to apply for international accreditation, but you need your programs, and our programs were not really ready. Not all of them were ready. Some of them, of course, were ready. And I thought when Dr. Sharif said that the largest number of engineering programs accredited, I was waiting to hear the name Egypt. It didn't come up the first one, and didn't come up the second time. So I'm really very distressed. So I really want to help all of us here to get accredited by ABET, because this is what we really want, because of it supports our graduates, it supports our learners, it supports our programs, and at the same time, it helps us to learn, because like Dr. Sharif said and everybody, and Timothy said, when we go on accreditation visits, we learn more. So we would like to learn more ourselves. We learned during our accreditation visit at AUC. We learn through every accreditation visit we go to. So it's more of a learning process rather than a policing process. It's a two-way process, okay? And let me say we at NAQAAE, we would like everybody to get international accreditation. Not necessarily from NAQAAE, but from everywhere else. But we know that this is challenging and demanding. It's both demanding financially, academically. There are cultural barriers. Everybody spoke about the language barrier. His Excellency, the Minister, spoke earlier and said that we have many of our arts and humanities schools that teach in Arabic, and we don't want to translate all this into English. So what we're trying at NAQAAE to do is that we are trying to get our institution or our agency recognized by several, and I don't want to say internationally recognized, because there is no one international accreditation place that accredits everybody, but there is American and different agencies in America. So we became a member of the CIQG partnership. We have an MOU with the ABET, but we're now working seriously to materialize and become one of the members of ABET. We have become internationally recognized by the WFME, World Federation for Medical Education, which is a great leap for our medical graduates. So we are working on becoming an ENQA, which is the European Quality Assurance Association, an ENQA affiliate first and then a full member, because we know there are several problems for us to become full members. So we would like to do that, and because this will help because once we are recognized by any of these agencies or some of these agencies, we can, the institutions that we accredit, there will be more, their graduates will be recognized internationally in this place. Now, having said that, okay, this was, okay, so let me take you briefly on, how does it work? Oh, okay, on what is, in my opinion, the difference between, or what is ranking and accreditation. When I started thinking about that, I thought, well, are we comparing apples and oranges? So are they really two different things, or are they really the same kind of apples that we are looking at? Is accreditation and ranking have the same roots that they start with? Coming from an accreditation agency, everybody would think that I'm against ranking, and most of accreditation agencies know that, and we're always, when ranking people are with us, we're always like, we have this conversation, it's accreditation, no, it's ranking, and so on. But actually, yes, ranking is important. Ranking provides information, easily interpreted information, understanding of the higher education institution. For you to understand what the higher education institution is doing from an accreditation visit, you will have to read the report. But ranking gives you right away numbers and facts about that. It simulates competition between higher education institutions. Yes, and this definitely promotes continuous development. So now I'm ranked number this, number that. Dr. Abeda sent me last week when he was getting his acknowledgement for a future, okay? And many, I'm not only talking about that, but I'm saying many of our institutions are competing to get this. It also provides a rationale for allocating funds. It is very important to attract for recruitment of international students, and it has a great impact on partnership. Okay, so does it help universities? Yes, it does, of course. It's used for marketing and admission, as we said. It's used for excellence and competitiveness. It attracts research grants, monitoring and benchmarking, attraction of top quality researchers, and of course, it's a national priority at some times. Does it really help universities? Well, actually, no. Why? Because it only lists 500, 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 of the 28,000 universities that are around the world. So we have a lot of universities missing there, okay? The reputation race is really unfair because reputation depends on history. So we have new faculties, new universities, new programs, and so on. And these do not have this. You cannot, like His Excellency said this morning, you cannot compete with UCL, and he was talking about the language or no, you cannot actually compete with Harvard or with Oxford or with Cambridge. And if you're one of the newly established universities, not only in Egypt, but anywhere, overemphasizing attaining class status may really divert the real work from real goals, from teaching and learning, and in a way, in a sense, teaching and learning is left out most of the time, although now I know that many of the agencies, the ranking agencies, I'm not going to mention any of them, the agencies are putting some stress on teaching and learning. But still, in quality assurance, it's all about the learner's experience, and so it is about teaching and learning. This leaves people out from the race, those who are not very highly selective, those who target maybe students or learners from lower socioeconomic or lower academic backgrounds. So these are left out from the race. And of course, sometimes, like I said, teaching, it's more focused on research. Many of our institutions are teaching-oriented. They are not research-oriented. Quality assurance versus ranking. Fast food and healthy food. Fast food, and I'll leave you to figure out which is which. Fast food is fast, very satisfying, very interesting, very tasty, does not take time to prepare, changes every once in a while, changes very fast, right? And most of the time, its impact and effect is over very fast, and sometimes it leaves you with indigestion. Healthy food, it takes time to prepare. It really leaves the impact. It is really very good. It takes all the ingredients and takes care of everything, and you really take time preparing it, and you really take a very long time eating it, and never leaves you with indigestion. It's about, so quality assurance, our ranking, it's about what you see, what you want to see, and what is really there. So basically, this is what the difference between quality assurance and ranking, and like I said, I leave you to guess. And maybe this is just, quality is about public responsibility, it's mission-driven, and everybody here said about accreditation is mission-driven, it's learner-centered, it considers all three roles of higher education institutions. Ranking focuses on competition, it's not mission sensitive, and it ignores, it focuses more on research rather than community role. And as a matter of fact, quality assurance is not only about excellence. Yes, it promotes excellence, but there is a minimum threshold of quality. Ranking does not look about minimum standards. And like I said, I'm just here making the case for both of them. Ranking results, we all know, are not not all the time. They differ from an agency to another, from an engine to another, and it's always more quantitative than qualitative. And to leave you at the end of the yes, ranking is growing. It's influential. We do not ignore it. We cannot ignore it. But it is important to consider it as a means to better quality of education. And yes, if you are accredited, if you had good quality education, definitely you will have a higher rank. But if you have a higher rank, and that's to answer your question, Dr. Ashraf, if you have a rank, that does not necessarily mean that you have a quality assurance. But it's not really cause or effect, but yes, quality assurance, and I'm not saying accreditation per se, but a quality education that focuses on the learners. And finally, and maybe this is too much to read, but basically, ranking is about what the ranker said is good quality. And it's most of the time promotes the publish or perish proxy. And so basically, and for me, well, I'm in this business for the learners, not for anything else. And these are the two famous quotes that you all know, but I always like to end up my presentations with. And thank you very much and I hope I have not lost.
شكرا جزيلا دكتورة يوهانسن. We'll open the floor for discussion, for comments بالعربي، بالإنجليزي، بالفرنساوي، بالطلياني. الدكتور احنا بس ايه اللي هيقول كومنت او هيسأل سؤال هيعرف نفسه والمؤسسة بتاعته ويتكلم بالراحة عشان الترجمة. دكتور عبادة اتفضل، المايك اهو وراك.
عبادة سرحان, Future University in Egypt. A very simple question. Which would we start? To apply for ranking or for accreditation?
احنا بس كل الأسئلة any questions related to ranking will postpone until the ranking panel.
طيب ما هو اصلا هيبقى ranking واكريديشن.
اوكي ده سؤال which to apply first يعني. اوكي هناخد أسئلة شوية وبعدين دكتور معالي الوزير دكتور معتز.
مش وزير، معتز يخش جامعة القاهرة كلية الحاسبات والذكاء الاصطناعي. طب أنا
accreditation للذكاء الاصطناعي؟
كلية الحاسبات. ما خدناش accreditation لكن المسمى وافق عليه من مجلس أعلى للجامعات. عندي عدد من النقاط، يعني بتكلم اللغة العربية من أجلها. يعني النقطة الأولى خاصة بالأكريديتيشن وتأثير التنوع الجامعي عليها. يعني نحن نشهد تنوع في الجامعات، جامعات بحثية، جامعات للدراسات العليا، جامعات تكنولوجية، جامعات أشكال وأنواع من الجامعات مختلفة متنوعة. هل هذا له تأثير على الأكريديتيشن، أو الجهة اللي بتعمل أكريديتيشن بتأخذ في اعتبارها أن هذه جامعة بحثية يجب أن نركز أكثر على الإنتاج البحثي بتاعها إلى جانب الإديوكيشن إلى غير ذلك؟ فده السؤال الحقيقة الأول. السؤال الثاني مقلق شوية، لأنه أنا شايف الحديث خصوصا من العرض الأول على قضية الإنوفيشن. يعني نحن نعيش عصر وكنا بنسعى في جامعاتنا أن ننتقل إلى الجامعات البحثية والجامعات ذات التوجه البحثي والدور البحثي للجامعات وكل هذه الأشياء الحقيقة. وفجأة ابتدت تتراجع عملية حتى في ذكر الأهداف والأوبجكتيفز والاستراتيجيز. قضية البحث العلمي يذكر الإنوفيشن، والإنوفيشن في واقع الأمر له مشاكل كثيرة. يعني الإنوفيشن لابد أن يكون منتج، يعني أولا خريج متميز بشكل كبير عن عن الخريجين الآخرين، خدمة تعليمية significantly improved أو أفضل أو جديدة عن الآخرين. الإنوفيشن له تعريفاته الواضحة اللي عاملينه من خلال أوسلو مانيوال ومن خلال الOECD. وضعه في الإديوكيشن الذي يكون هناك عندما نضعه في الاستراتيجي للجامعة نبقى أكيد متأكدين أن خريجنا يتميز، يعد خريج جديد على مستوى الخريجين، أو أن الخدمات التعليمية بتاعتنا تعد جديدة مقارنة بالخدمات التعليمية التي تقدم، أو بلاش جديدة لكن significantly improved. فده ثم هناك مشكلة قياس الانوفيشن أكثر صعوبة من البحث والتطوير، لأن مقاييس البحث والتطوير أصبحت واضحة ومعروفة، والسايتيشنز والبابليكيشن والى غير ذلك. ثم كمان ان الانوفيشن في انوفيشن في الانتاج ويحتاج للسوسايتي انوفيشن. الانوفيشن از سوسيتال فينومينا، وفي سوشيال انوفيشن وفي البرودكشن انوفيشن الى غير ذلك. انا بس بأثير هذا واحتاج لرد على هذه النقطة. السؤال اللي بقى انا معلش مش هطيل كتير، انا قربت اخلص. يعني على مستوى يعني العرض الأول احنا نتحدث ليس على جلوباليزيشن، نتحدث عن وورلد وايد يونيفرسيتي، وهو التساؤل وأماكن والتغير والأماكن المتعددة اللي فيها فروع لها بأماكن مختلفة، وآسيا وأمريكا وغيره. هل ده له انعكاسات على التيتشنج اند ليرنينج والتكنولوجي المستخدم في هذا المجال؟ والى اي مدى؟ وهل ننتقل بقى الاي ليرنينج ولا غير ذلك والديستانس ليرنينج، ومدى بقى عمليه الاعتراف بها وتاثيرها في هذا المجال؟ بالنسبه للانترناشونال اكريديتيشن انا اتفق مع ما ذكرته دكتور يوهانسن حول قضيه السوسيو ايكونوميك political and culture context of a country. And this is an important، يعني مش الديستانس الحقيقه هو البارير. الديستانس كان بيك يعني ممكن تعمل فيديو كونفرنسنج والحاجات دي. المشكله الاساسيه هي في هذا الكونتكست المختلف عنها. السؤال يمكن الاخير بقى وهو قضيه التباين ما بين، يعني مش هنتكلم عن الاعتراف عشان تقول ده المناقشه في المره القادمه، لكن انا بس هضع عشان في مقارنه بين المعادله والاعتماد والاعتراف، وانه اذا رجعنا الى مضبطه المجلس الاعلى للجامعات، وموجود بقى الدكتور اشرف حاتم يقدر عليه، اننا المعادله هي معادله الدرجه التي تمنحها دوله اخرى او مؤسسه اخرى بما تمنحه الجامعات المصريه في نفس التخصص. وهي دي المشكله، اننا لابد ان اقارنها بنفس التخصص ويحصل على، يعني اذا حد اخذ سنتين في الفاينانشال مانجمنت مع 3 في الانجينيرنج اصبحت مشكله عويصه في المعادله. وهنا الحقيقه نظام المعادله يجب ان نعيد النظر فيه، ويجب ان نناقش بقى هذا الموضوع بشكل، لان ده يخص مصر برضو الحقيقه في هذا. الاعتماد رايي انه من اهم الاشياء. طبعا الاعتماد ان هناك مؤسسه تاتي الى الجامعه وتؤكد جوده ادائها البحثي وادائها الخدمي المجتمعي وادائها في كذلك في الاديوكيشن، وده مهم جدا. واعتقد سواء انترناشونال او محلي الامر واحد مع يعني بعض الفروق. لكن قضيه يمكن الاعتراف والريكوجنيشن كانت موجوده، واحنا بنلاقي حاجات، نلاقي مثلا ان جامعه معترف بها لكن برامجها التي تخرج منها غير معترف بها من المجلس الاعلى للجامعات. وهنا بقى ريكوجنيشن بيتم باتفاقيات بين وزراء التعليم العالي وبين مؤسسات وبعضها البعض، ويبقى المؤسسه كامله معترف بها من الجهه الوطنيه، ثم ناتي يقول لك ما فيش انستتيوشنال اكريديتيشن. دي قضيه ايضا عايزه، وزي ما اتفقنا ان التفرقه بينهم ودي قضيه اعتقد مهمه جدا. انا اسف على الاطاله، شكرا جزيلا.
You'll speak about accreditation, not ranking.
So I think a very distinguished panel. Thank you so much for bringing this. I'm Ashwin from QS. I think the whole point of accreditation or rankings, I don't take offense to it, but I think it's not appropriate because they're two different systems. And I think accreditation has its own place in the whole paradigm of higher education, and rankings do something else. And I think the example of fast food versus healthy food, I would like to think that accreditation is your healthy food, definitely, but rankings is the spice which makes it much more tastier, right? It's not your fast food because it does not take the same timeline as accreditation takes. So I think that's what I would like to add. So maybe you could add that for your future slide. Also, I think there are several points which accreditation does cover, and one of that is minimum standards. You do, and across the world, I mean, I'm for program level accreditation. I think we should all accredit different programs, get it on world-class standards. But when it comes to national accreditation, I think national systems like the NAQAAE would be something which should be adopted across the region. And I think that just sets a minimum standard. But rankings does provide universities to aim for the sky. And the statistics all know 28,000 universities in the world as per statistics. But we can only rank the top few % of them. So accreditation again is meant for masses, whereas rankings is the elite top universities in the world. So that's my statement. I don't want to take long on that one.
Okay. We'll take 2 minutes from your talk.
Good morning. My name is Dr. Rania Rafiq Khalil. I teach in the Faculty of Arts and Humanities at the British University in Egypt. I'm here on behalf of the Vice President for Research and Professor Hamad Bioui. I have to say, since I'm not higher management, but I am an academic, and I do two things. I teach and I work with my colleagues on accreditation for NAQAAE, inshallah. And at the same time, I'm working with higher management on ranking. I have to say, the title has perplexed me all the way, coming for 2.5 hours, thinking accreditation or ranking. Both have quality at the root. Why are we debating whether it's accreditation or ranking? Both are very important for higher education institutions. And while I've heard everyone stand there on the podium and emphasize the importance of accreditation and the importance of ranking, as Rania, working as an academic, I think both are absolutely important. We need to be working in parallel for both. Kindly help me understand why today we're talking either or, and why one is more important than the other. Both for me are very, very important. Thank you.
I think it is the priorities.
Which is the priority then?
It is for you to decide. Okay. Any other comments?
Naguib Salim, Dean Physiotherapy, MTI University. In 1983, it was started research assessment exercise in UK. At that point, when they started looking to develop research, so the competition was between universities in research. So ranking of the universities started at that moment by research, because the aim of education, research, education, and the community. By the end of that program of research assessment exercises in UK, they mentioned that research must be related to the community. So they collected the two aims of high education in research assessment exercise for community and ranking of universities in research. When they started to look at the educational point of view, so the ISO of education has been transferred in higher education quality assurance, also in UK, by accreditation systems. So accreditation for education ranking started by research and community service. So just I wanted to mention, I'm directing the thoughts. Thank you.
If no other comments, I'll leave the panel, each one to either to comment or to answer any of the queries or questions. Dr. Hansen first.
دكتور شريف محمد، مدرس كلية الصيدلة في جامعة 6 أكتوبر. جاي النهارده بقى مع رئيس الجامعة ودكتور علي عبد العزيز نائب رئيس الجامعة الدراسات العليا. أنا بس عندي سؤال، هو ليه مثلا الهيئة القومية ما تتبناش معايير الرانكينج ويبقى جزء من من ضمن الرانكينج ده، جزء من ضمن المعايير دي، إنك وأنت كمان بتعمل أكريديشن يبقى مشتمل على الحاجات اللي مطلوبة منك عشان يبقى معتمد دوليا أو كده. بس شكرا جزيلا.
دكتورة هانسن اتفضلي.
I'll start. I'll not respond to everything because if I do, I will take another session and I'll leave. But I'll just pick some of the few points. Maybe, Your Excellency, yes, you said about the نوع الجامعات وإذا كانت هل الأكريديتيشن بياخد في الاعتبار إذا كانت جامعة بحث التنوع التكنولوجيا. هرد على حضرتك ببساطة، يمكن إحنا مش بنعملها كويس قوي في مصر، يعني اللي هي إن إحنا بنقول إن accreditation is mission oriented. فإحنا بنبص على الميشن بتاعت المؤسسة التعليمية وعلى أساسها بنعمل الإيه we accredit بهذا يعني بالطريقة دي. بمعنى لو المؤسسة التعليمية قالت لي إنها الميشن بتاعتها، وهقولها ببساطة شديدة، أنا بحب دايما أضرب المثل ده، لو الميشن بتاعتها إنها عايز تطلع القمر وهي مؤسسة هايلة بس ما وصلتش للقمر، وفي مؤسسة تانية كان الميشن بتاعها إنها توصل للسنبلاوين ووصلت للسنبلاوين، هعتمد بتاعت السنبلاوين ومش هعتمد بتاعت القمر، على الرغم إن بتاعت القمر أحسن منها بكتير بس هي ما حققتش الميشن بتاعتها. فإتز أنا يعني this is the extreme. أنا بجيب حاجة خطتها لأن هي الميشن بتاعتها بتتنرفز. السنبلاوين is a very small country in Egypt يعني. أوكي، فالخطة بتاعتها هي الميشن بتاعتها بتبقى في خطة، يعني الخطة الاستراتيجية بتاعتها هو عمل إيه نفذ إيه، فبالتالي فالتباين والاختلاف ده definitely لازم يؤخذ في الاعتبار. لما أقول لحضرتك إحنا مش بنعملها بحرفنة قوي، إن المؤسسات التعليمية لسه مش حريفة قوي في الحتة دي، ومش هقول يعني والهيئة مش يعني مش بس we don't stress قوي عليها عشان ممكن يعني بنحاول نساعد ان الدنيا تمشي. فده حاجة ما عنديش رد على الانوفيشن، فده حد تاني اللي هيرد عليه. I totally agree مع حضرتك على السوشيو ايكونوميك اند كلتشر كونتكست. فين مش مشكلة. يس احنا ما قلتش ان سبايسي فود سوري ان الفاست فود وحش، يعني أنا I didn't say هو اسمه إيه؟ ها؟ عشوائي. Okay, I didn't say that fast food is bad. Those who know me know that I have lost 10 kilos in the last few months. And the reason is because I stopped eating fast foods. Okay, so fast food is great. It is wonderful. It is very, very convenient. So no, I'm not against fast food. I'm not against, of course, ranking. But I love what you said, and I'll add this to the presentation. Yes, it is more spicy. We love it. Yes, it is good. I'm not. The other one, it is never when I was, you have to understand, when I was looking for pictures to put the comparison between fast food and healthy food, I could not put the pictures that Google was bringing up because they were really very boring. So I had to come up with gourmet foods, okay? So yes, of course, it is good. And the reason we're saying fast is the turnover. So it changes every year. That's just basically about the fast part. So no offense, okay? And then about whether accreditation or ranking, Dr. Abada, I don't think I have a clear-cut answer, but I think they both go together. And this brings me to your question. There's no first. There's no first. It's just like the chicken or the egg. It's just like the chicken or the bida or katkut. No. Because this brings me to your comment. Yes, ranking, they're not different. We're not, and that's what I said, maybe it's not apples and oranges, it's just different types of apples. It's all about quality education. Ranking is about achieving excellence. It's about competition, and that's why it changes every year. But accreditation about the status of a university that goes on for quite some time, and that's why when His Excellency the Minister said, we don't leave the institutions for 5 years without checking back. We do check on them, and we do some visits once in a while. So ranking standards or criteria are embedded in quality assurance criteria, and quality assurance criteria are part of the ranking criteria. It's kind of the same thing, it's just the focus is in which and the span of time. Thank you.
Thank you. So accreditation and ranking, at least to me, are not the end. They're not the goal in themselves, but I see them as rather one of the means by which we can converge towards achieving the most noble objective. Why we're here is simply educating the masses, right? So ultimately, in a very aggressive and ever-changing world, I see that our current educational models are actually not sustainable, not good enough for us to be able to educate people the way we want them to be educated. I remember a very lovely comment from one of my students at some point in time who challenged me on a first day of a lecture and asked me the question, what can I learn from you that I cannot learn online? But I see those as a very valid question. I see the current model of us delivering education as not a very sustainable, like I said, not a very successful model, but there are parallel channels by which we can achieve quality, parallel channels by which we can achieve the ultimate objective and the goal, which is more or less to educate the people that we have here on campus and so on and so forth, and the community also. So that's just my 2 cents on accreditation and ranking, yes.
It's a fantastic discussion. There are 16,000 business and economic faculties in the world, 16,000. We currently accredit about 5% in 56 countries. But the diversity among those is significant and impactful. Large public institutions, small private institutions, institutions in large capital cities, and those in rural areas. And our context should be that if you meet the standards, you should be able to earn that quality assurance, that accreditation, no matter where you are. And that's very, very important. Secondly, to your point, sir, we talk about the 3 foundations: innovation, engagement, and impact. And if you are not distinctive in those 3 areas, you will not meet our standards. And finally, I may disagree with our colleagues. The journey that leads to initial accreditation for us is done internationally. So you are benchmarking, you are comparing your performance at an international level. Many of our schools would argue for them that is the portal, that is the admission to global rankings. Like it or not. At the Financial Times, for example, if you are not AACSB accredited or EFMD accredited, you're not eligible for their rankings among business schools. So it's the ticket to the dance, if you will. The important thing is that journey never stops. For high quality and continuous improvement, it's a continuous focus for all. And that's what's so important, that allows more and more schools every year to meet the standards.
Okay, thank you very much. ممكن في ال
It's so important to us that we have annual, every year, recognition programs for innovative initiatives worldwide among our members, whether they are accredited or not accredited. We feel all should be eligible for that kind of recognition. The other question that you're asking about innovation is also about impact. So today, among the world of accreditation at the national level or the international level, you hear a lot of discussion about impact. Impact of research, impact of teaching, impact of the institution in the community that it serves. A lot of that is also tied to innovation. And I'll be honest with you, besides quantitative measures, which we love in higher education, we also ask institutions, tell us the story. If it's not subject to real quantitative measurement, then tell the innovative story that led to the impact that is so profound. And I'm glad to discuss that with you in more detail. It's a great question.
Thank you very much. We will have now 5 minutes coffee break. The coffee break is there. And then we will reconvene for the ranking.